Hi witchlings, welcome back to my channel. It is me, your local chaotic witch hunt, and today's video is the 10 best skills for beginner witches to learn. Obviously, this is more geared towards those who are beginning the craft and looking for, you can hear my dogs, what to learn and look for, but if you are an intermediate or advanced practitioner, that doesn't mean that this can't apply to you and can't be something you take into consideration. I have my list on my phone. I do have 11. Some of them are kind of dual things, like to me they go together. But just starting off, critical thinking skills. And I know that sounds mean to implore that most people don't have critical thinking, but in reality I think that this is a really important skill for every single witch to have, especially when you're reading occult texts, when you're interacting with other witches on the internet. This is one of the most important things that I feel like I see people lack on the internet, at least. And that isn't to say that most people don't have critical thinking skills or most witches don't. I think that there's a certain level of critical thinking that needs to be done when you're a witch, and especially when you're researching really nuanced topics that I haven't seen that room for nuance on the internet at all. And when I mean critical thinking, I have a little info. I got like an info box that I'm going to put right here. And that's what I mean by critical thinking. It's the what, the why, the when, the where, the how. And it's problem solving. It's understanding complex and nuanced situations. It's all these different levels of thinking critically about something that I feel like some people lack. And that isn't to say that lacking it is an awful thing. I think that it can be developed and learned, but I've met like really, practitioners more advanced and older than me that lack critical thinking skills, and it's difficult to have a conversation when things are only black or white and there's no nuance. Number 2, research and how to research. Critical thinking comes before this because critical thinking helps us research. I actually have a video on this. I will put it up here. It is on cross-referencing, using sources, the best types of sources, how to make sure you use multiple sources. I made it about a year ago, I think, at this point. But research is so important, and making sure you know how to research yourself is so important. The reason I made that video is because a lot of times when we talk about research, many people are thinking academic levels of research, like being able to go in depth on primary sources or secondary sources or use multiple sources. And not only does not everyone have access to the academic environment that usually kind of prioritizes that type of research, but it's something that is important in every aspect of your life. Especially in searching up things on Google. While that's great, there's a lot of misinformation on all different aspects of social media: Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, Pinterest, especially when it comes to witchcraft. And learning how to double check these things and deep dive into subjects is really, really important for every single witch. The third one is boundaries. Boundaries and knowing your limits. This is such an important topic to me, because boundaries are witchcraft. And I know that doesn't make sense. It will make sense. There, especially on the internet, will be people who attempt to oversee or control your craft in a way that is inappropriate for them to do so. Or you will do things in your craft that push you past your limits in a way that is not beneficial for yourself. Boundaries is not just boundaries with others, it is boundaries with you. It's making sure you know your energy and how much energy you have to successfully complete a spell but not overdo it. It's making sure you know your time restraints, your priorities, so you can focus on the right aspects of your path and practice without overwhelming yourself. And knowing your limits is just, it's so important. It's so easy to burn out from researching too much or doing too much magic or spells, and being able to say, okay, I don't have enough energy to complete this right now is so important. Number 4, Grounding and self-care. This goes right up there with boundaries and knowing your limits. What happens when you hit a boundary or you hit a limit? You ground yourself, you recenter, and you take care of yourself. In witchcraft, that is so important, to continue to bring yourself back down to earth, not necessarily in the sense of doing meditation to ground, but in the sense of being able to pull yourself back down to the earth. There are different ways that people will do that for different reasons. How do you get yourself there? How do you make yourself feel safe? How do you take care of yourself? That is what is important. Next is ethics. Ethics, I feel like, has become this hot topic in the witch sphere. And I partially understand why, I also partially don't. Ethics is a topic that is broad and not just within the witch spectrum. It's not just applying to witchcraft. And I actually have something from my friend Omi that I love that talk about ethics. I think people often argue that there are no ethics in witchcraft, which to me oftentimes translates to there are no rules, or I don't want to have any rules. So when we talk about ethics, a lot of covens or have a code of ethics that is set for the entire group. When we think about Thelema, it's like the law, book of the law. It's not necessarily an ethics book, but it is something that everyone in that group abides by or considers in their practice, even if it's different for everyone. Ethics is similar. I think ethics is different for everyone. Ethics is how you form your practice. What do you want to accomplish with your witchcraft? What do you value? What is important to you? That is how you conduct your witchcraft and your practice, by understanding your code of ethics, making it for yourself, and living by it. So by the way, if you want to follow my friend Omi, she's Omi the Bruja. She sent me her first cycle of classes about decolonizing your witchcraft, and this is what she writes about ethics. Your code of ethics applies to you and your personal craft, so is personal and unique to you. It helps you stay centered and focused in order to continue working for your well-being, seeing the craft as a journey of self-discovery and self-mastery. A code of ethics is a guide of principles designed to help us maintain honesty and integrity. The code of ethics may outline the mission and values of your practice, the relationship between you and your craft, and how your spiritual practice honors and reflects core values. A code of ethics may also be referred to as an ethical code, may encompass areas such as craft ethics, a code of professional practice, and a code of conduct. So basically, it's different for everyone, and that's okay. You need to figure out what your code of ethics is going to be. 6. Safety. This is so important. So important. Safety. What I mean by safety is fire safety. I mean safety with possibly materials that could harm you, safety with plants, safety in general. How are you being safe while you were practicing witchcraft? Because let's be clear, there were things throughout history that were used in witchcraft, such as belladonna, hemlock, etc., that were very much considered witches' tools, but they are poisonous. They are harmful. So there is always needs to be an aspect of safety. How are you practicing fire safety? What do you have around you to make sure that your house doesn't burn down if you do candle magic? If you don't use candles, that's also okay. I've also seen so many people on the internet do certain things with candles that is like violating 3 different codes for fires. It's like real bad, and that's concerning to me. It's concerning to me that people didn't know that the glass pillar candles, the 7-day prayer candles, explode. They're prone to explosion because they are made so cheaply and mass produced. There's a chance with every single one that there's a hairline fracture in the glass, there's some sort of bubbles or misalignment of the wick, and that they do explode often. And adding herbs and etc. to it, a lot of it, and glitter, can cause more of a chance for things to explode. 7. Record keeping and writing things down. Yes. Okay. And I don't mean necessarily in a book with a pen and paper. It can totally be with a pen and paper, but it can also be in a notes app. It can also be my book of shadows is in a document on my computer. Overall, what I mean by record keeping and writing things down is making sure that when you do a spell, you write down the spell, you write down the ingredients, you make sure that everything is taken account of. Why do I say this? Because I was the person who didn't write things down for a while, and I hardcore regret it. Hardcore regret it. I often will also write down, if I'm doing a conjuration, a charm bag, etc., I'll write down any changes that I made to the original spell that I created. So let's say I substituted an ingredient, etc. I write down how it works. I write down how I felt during it. Okay. So when you're writing, you can also write down information, moon cycles, etc. But writing down your spells is so important. It helps you grow as a practitioner and helps you keep track of things and how your spells will change over time. I still have some spells written down from when I originally started my practice. They're very interesting. Useful, but very interesting. Very basic, and I love the way that my stuff has grown. I have a whole section in my Book of Shadows for folk magic, and especially Italian folk magic, and the importance of it, and what I learned from it. Overall, record keeping, writing things down, super important. 8, energy work. This ties a little bit back into boundaries, but energy work isn't just manipulating and using your energy and understanding how to work with energy. It's also understanding your energy, protecting your energy, putting boundaries on your energy, keeping your energy safe. Energy work is so much more than just figuring out how to put energy into an object by charming it. It's about making sure your energy is taken care of. So when we bring this up, I do have questions like, how are you protecting your energy right now? How are you making sure your energy is important? Because without our energy, we don't have anything. We are the greatest tool that we have in the craft. We are the only tool we need in the craft, and at the core of that is our energy. So how are you taking care of it? How are you prioritizing it? How are you making sure you are okay and your energy is okay? 9, listening. This is important, and I don't want anyone to take it the wrong way. But I have met a lot of people who didn't learn the kindergarten mouth closed, ears open technique. And I think it's something that everyone can learn. I think that within listening, there's a certain element of listening respectfully. Listening and actually hearing what people are saying. I feel like a lot of the time, especially on the internet, people listen, but they hear what they want to hear. They don't actually listen and hear what the person is saying or understand what the person is saying. And that's a point of frustration, I think, for a lot of people. There is a certain element of, I do have a very large platform, and I understand that when people hear me talk, they may hear what they want to hear. They may pick apart the things that I say and interpret it in a way that it was not meant, or misconstrue my words. But I think everyone, especially, in this practice in witchcraft, should know how to listen to other people's experiences and listen respectfully. Even if you don't agree with that person, even if you don't agree with what they have to say, there are obvious exceptions to this. I will not listen to white supremacists. Ever. I don't care. I will not listen to your opinion. Don't want to hear it. I'm sorry. That's my exception. But there are a lot of creators that I've seen that I'm like, I really don't like this person. I really don't like their opinion, but I'm still going to listen and try to see their side. I'm trying to get perspective. That's another aspect of critical thinking too that I think is important, is perspective. Being able to step outside of your shoes and hop into someone else's shoes, which perspective and empathy, I think, can be similar but are not the same. Just being able to see a different perspective, understand a different point of view, that ties right in with listening. How will you understand a different point of view if you don't listen to other people's experiences? People from different cultures, people from different backgrounds. That is important. Lastly, adaptability. This is one of my favorite skills that I think everyone should learn. Adaptability is so important for so many reasons. Adaptability has to do with changing, learning, growing, and not being afraid to dive into your practice. I told you a whole list of things that you should learn and skills you should learn, but the bottom line is you may never be able to learn all these skills. There may be some that you are really good at and some that you struggle with through your whole practice. You don't have to learn these skills before jumping into your work and your spells. These skills are my opinion on what I think is important in a practice and what will help you grow as a practitioner, not a list of rules for you to live by. Adaptability is hearing me and maybe implementing some things, but not everything if it doesn't fit with your craft. It is being able to look at something that someone says to you take it in and change and grow. It is being able to accept change and work with change, because change is a huge part of life and it's a huge part of witchcraft. You can see I'm wearing my tower earrings. This is the epitome of change. It is ugly, it is not fun, it is destructive, but we have to learn how to be adaptable and how to see it and how to understand it and say, okay, I can do this. And like I said, some of these skills you will struggle with and it'll be more difficult for you to do, and that's okay. Some of these skills you may learn for your whole practice and continue refining for your whole practice, or some you may learn right away. I am still working on developing my code of ethics. I think deep down I understand what my ethics are, but do I have them on paper written out? No. Should I write them out? Yes. In the same way, I struggle with boundaries and knowing my limits. I am not good with boundaries with myself. I tend to push myself too far really often. I overwork myself. I burn myself out, but I'm still working on it. It's still something I understand that's important to the craft and important to me. This list is a list that you can work with if you choose, or you can completely ignore. It's up to you. But I think it's important. That is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you stayed till the end of the video, you already know how I feel about you. If you want, you can like, subscribe, leave a comment, turn the bell on if you want, but no pressure. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Sa benedita.